So I'm seeing if I can do a podcast here. Always wanted to try a podcast, so let's see if I can do it here. I'm just going to review whatever poster on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit from the past day, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, let's start out with... We had a lot of posts today. Busy day, April 5th, 2023. Let's see, the first one, 23 hours ago. War criminals only for the losing side of conflict. But from John Lorimer on Twitter, posted by myself, JFMV763. So I would agree with that, a war criminal, I think war is something that is kind of inherently inhumane. In the 20th century, you kind of saw people trying to say, oh, we have to apply rules to war. It used to be like all is fair in love and war. Now suddenly have to have like the Geneva Conventions. Historically the Geneva Conventions weren't a thing. They were, they were a 20th century invention. Back in the days you had like Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu had The Art of War, and The Art of War. If you do a lot of stuff in that book, it was written in, I think, in the 5th century BC or so. If you do a lot of stuff in that book, you'd be held up as a war criminal. Back then, that was just how war was. War is something that is kind of not fair, and it's what they say. As I said, all's fair in love and war, and I think it's important to remember that how war is ultimately kind of unfair. And let's see. Watch your back, kid. People kill themselves over this type of stuff. And that's from a tweet from Dylan Holman. And it's a picture of a guy says, oh, this kid created a budget tracker that traces where government funds for COVID-19 goes. And let's see, yeah. I did post another thing like that. Like, Gary Webb killed himself, but he didn't really, or Jeffrey Epstein, A lot of people, they'll say, oh, you killed yourself. You didn't really kill yourself, It's all. The state wants to say you killed yourself, yeah. What's next? The case for banning from social media. Surprised that got some with this from you, her, and it's from the New Yorker. So, yeah, I wouldn't say we should ban children on social media. I think that's the parents' job. There's a lot of stuff on social media that can really fuck you up, and that's life for you. It's your job to get your kids off it, not that as the state. You shouldn't rely on the state for everything. These days, people want to rely on the state for everything. They want to rely on the state, tuck them into bed at night, it seems, Sometimes you just have to rely on yourself. You can't rely on the state for everything. And that's what people who are very into progressivism and traditionalism need to learn. You just can't rely on your state to support your values all the time. Next we have, remember Gary Webb, I just talked about that. Bonobo, Communism, Chimp Fascism, or Orangutan Libertarianism by Leo Little Book 6. Let's see what this is about. To intensive childcare requirements, gradients from societies are only two models. Bonobo or Chimp, humans are graded for societies are hybrids of these two models. Bonobo sexual liberation achieves peace by letting males fuck every female, children like each other. See police species. Yes. Humans always like to say, "Oh, we've come so far from everything," but we really haven't. We're still very much dependent on our biological factors, and I think that's one of the source of a lot of political toxicity you see today. That we're no longer responsible for we no longer have to comply to our biological factors. I can change my gender. I can change maybe other things as well. You're starting to see transhumanism pop up in addition to transgenderism. I think that's something that might be concerning. And sometime for right now I think we're pretty limited by our biology, but soon we could get. I don't know how much when will humanity's biological urges, could we ever get rid of them entirely? That's the thing, it's like a hypothesis scenario. If humanity replaces every single part of its body with that of something that's not biological, that's to make them human. That's something I think people need to think about. Dump the politicized case against Trump and make way for serious investigations. Reason, yeah, we did. I talked a lot about Trump today. I don't really care for Trump. I think he's a toxic piece of shit who really kind of just made everyone else a toxic piece of shit. And yeah, it just gets really tiring, So I personally would like to see him get prosecuted, but this is not the prosecution I want to see. This is, even Justin Amash, who was like, he voted to impeach Trump and even left the Republican Party over Trump. He says, oh, this might be kind of bullshit. I think that kind of shows you what direction this is kind of. This is kind of a bullshit thing. It's like, we have to they're trying to get 34 counts on this, you can't get 34 counts on just, it's like, oh, we need to charge Hillary Clinton for every single email. We have to charge her for 30,000 counts. That would be kind of bullshit too. I'm pretty sure a lot of the Dems who use the subreddit would probably agree with that. Disband NATO. Withdrawal financial for a tweet from Libertarian Party National about disbanding NATO from Vertice. Nice guy. And yeah, I used to be kind of more into NATO. Now I think NATO is just kind of Western neoliberal imperialism. It's just kind of, and it's just yeah, I used to be more into NATO. Now I'm kind of turning against NATO. It's just kind of it's kind of, it's just kind of a grift, I think. It seems like everything's a grift these days, and I would argue that's kind of what life is. Life's kind of just a grift, and social media just kind of is proof of that. Russian journalist signed a letter demanding U.S. reporters release from the Moscow Times by Puffin fan. That sounds interesting, I respect Russian journalists, I would say, a lot more than I would respect American journalists. Russian journalists actually have to deal with a lot more authoritarian regime, while American journalists, they just complain on Twitter all day. Like, look at Taylor Lorenz, oh, why can't we have China's zero COVID policies here? That's kind of, yeah, that's kind of the difference between them. The true journalist, if your journalism doesn't have any risks involved that might involve, like, I would say, like, potentially getting attacked by, like, terrorists or like, government agents, then you're not a real journalist. You're just a propagandist on Twitter. That's what I would say. Hillary Clinton, I can't believe Trump used campaigns. Yeah, I have something I posted about, how Trump he could use campaign funds to manipulate, public opinion, and, yeah. I think that's bad, but Clinton kind of did the same thing with the Steele dossier, and no one really cares. She it's especially damn because she's trying to pass off, oh, the Republicans funded this first, and it's like, oh, it's like how the U.S. is trying to pass off the Nord Stream pipeline. Oh, Russia did it, and then eventually they come around. It's like, okay, we did it, but it was for a good reason. It's kind of all bullshit. It was a political hit piece, and the thing is, you never get Hillary for that because she just has too much social capital right now. It's the thing. Reddit is essentially astroturfed by the Clintons, and that's important to remember. The Clintons effectively control Reddit, even except outside of like explicitly subs that go against Clinton circle jerk, I would say. But then they're more on the pro Trump circle jerk. I don't like the I'd really just blame 2016. Just the two most insufferable people, Clinton and Trump. Just going at it. I don't think we ever really recovered from that. And now everyone else is insufferable as well, and I just can't really take it anymore. Sometimes buying a new car of other people's hard work from Chi-Town and Idle 20. That sounds interesting to see. It's a tweet. The crumbling drama house part versus the landlord's truce fixed for over a year versus the brand new Corvette he keeps parked on the driver's driveway. The thing is, that's life. It's unfair. I go over that a lot. Some people can have access to more resources than others. I don't really care too much for landlords. I would say, as I like to care, I'm not really too big into capitalism. But that's life is unfair sometimes. I remember I posted an episode of the 12th yesterday. It's like sometimes you have to respect those who are successful. So because they figure out how to work the system. Every system is going to have winners and losers, and that's the sad truth of life. The left thinks, oh, we can not have winners and losers. We can make everyone a winner. That's not true. You're always going to have some winners and some losers, and that's just the sad reality of life. And it's important to remember that. Breaking Israeli occupation forces have raided Al-Aqsa Mosque and has brutally attacked Palestinians, being every including women in the elderly. 5/4/23 by Chi-Town Idle 20. Yeah, I'm not really into the Israelis or the Palestinians. Used to be more anti-Israel back when I was a Democrat, but am now. Yeah, I don't really care for either of them. It's Israel. I would say definitely oversteps its authority a lot of the times, but Palestine. They kind of launch rockets at them too. So it's just kind of. And it's most people, are it's I would say the governments are really at fault if anything, as in if every country could get rid of the government, I think that's a big problem. Governments are always telling us what to do. In World War II, drag shows were popular with the troops. U.S. Britain and was a way to relieve stress. One British unit came under attack while hosting a show, so they had to fight while it dolled up. The government tried to hide these photos for years. By Chi-Town Idle 20. It's Reddit for you. It's like drag's almost become like a religion on Reddit. It's like these drag shows are almost like religious ceremonies. Like I don't really care for drag, but it's kind of getting weird how just obsessed Reddit's getting over it, but. Yeah, it's just kind of Reddit for you. They always love their progressive circles works. I skipped one, by the way. Hillary Clinton, not Donald Trump or Cameron was the best in America, reads from 2018. Yeah, Hillary, she kind of has a more passive-aggressive version of what Trump did in 2020, and I really think that kind of is almost kind of worse than what Trump did in some respects. Trump, at least, he didn't try and hide. He's like, this election's rigged, go storm the... implied and went on to imply, oh, you should storm the Capitol, I'm tired of Trump shit, but Clinton shit, Clinton and the Dem shit, I'm tired of Trump shit, I'm tired of the Republican shit, I'm tired of Clinton shit, I'm tired of the Democrat shit, it's just, social media just really shows you how insufferable they are, that's life, I guess, people are insufferable, everyone wants what they want, that's why, Bill Larson always said Calvin was popular, because Calvin was, a 6-year-old. Social media really shows most people really are just act like 6-year-olds all the time, and, most people never really grow out of that, it seems. Right wingers are in tears melting down over the Trump indictment. Nazis' tears are the best drink. Yeah, I Chi-Town Idle 20. Yeah, that's a very Reddit post right there. Yeah. Let's look at how melting down our opponents. It's like that's pretty much social media these days. Always our opponents are melting down. So look at them cry. Look at them go wah. But if this was the other way around, and was the liberals crying, they'd be like, oh, you can't you can't mock us for what you can't come after us for that for some reason. Everyone always has some justification for something. It's life these days. Everyone's kind of hypocritical, and and they always find some justification for it. But that's life. You have to deal with it. Florida Republicans sneak in a bill that adds more barriers to voting. Fascists oppose democracy by Chi-Town over 20. Yeah, it's another very Reddit post. It's every time the Dems lose an election, they're always gonna say, voter suppression, voter suppression, voter suppression. That's the thing. I personally think voting should be probably as easy as possible, but that's the thing is that the Dems and the Republicans each have their own kind of things when it comes to voting. The Dems want high turnout as possible because they think that'll give them the win. They don't really care about voting. They'll always have an excuse if they lose an election too, just like the Republicans will. Everyone will say, "Oh, it's not fair. It's not." But that's life. It's not fair. The thing of the election is, you shouldn't. It's just getting a majority. Why should who has the majority rule? It's just mob rule. We're against mob rule. No, democracy is essentially mob rule. That's what some of the things that really draw me into the Libertarian Party, realizing that just because the majority thinks something doesn't necessarily make it correct. You have to always think that, UK new body positivity television show features young teens looking at naked adults from Redux. That's from myself, the FMV 763. Yeah, that's just kind of weird. As I said in that, I commented on that post. If the Republicans did that, everyone would jump out and say pedophiles. But since the Dems do it, it's non-sexual nudity. Yeah, that's why I said in the post. It doesn't matter really who does things anymore. It matters. No, it doesn't matter really what people do anymore. It matters who does it. That's a good thing to think about. Because if the Democrats or BLM or Antifa did the Capitol riot, we would probably, or if they did that, we'd probably be told, oh, that's essential for democracy. That was entirely justified. Well, the Trumpists do it, and it's the worst thing ever. But that's kind of life. Everyone just kind of just going to justify what they justify, and people think their standards only apply to themselves and they don't apply to others, but that's life. What's next? The overreach of the TikTok bill from powerful JRE. I always like uploading Joe Rogan. I always like how he thinks. I consider him pretty libertarian. Yeah, the TikTok bill. The internet isn't too good right now with all the Twitter files and all the crackdowns on disinformation and hate speech. But that Restrict Act is just going to make things a lot worse. And it's important to remember that. It's just scary to think about the internet's future. I think it's going to look like the Chinese internet in like 10 years, but we'll see what happens. I posted some polls for the presidential primaries, even though they're not till next year. Let's see. So the Democratic Party has a half full can of Dr. Pepper in the lead. They'd probably vote for that if it was their nominee. I wonder how that term would go. A half full can of Dr. Pepper in the White House. Probably our best president since like Calvin Coolidge, probably. It's the most recent presidents have really put the bar that low that the half full can of Dr. Pepper will probably get reelected too at this point. I voted Marianne Williamson. I like her. She's kind of a kook, but you gotta be a little kooky in this world, especially with how crazy things are getting. And then Joe Biden has 2 votes. Corpse of JFK has 1. My refrigerator's 2. And Never Abstains 5. Then we move on to the Republican Party. Let's look at that. Let's see. I voted for Vivek Ramaswamy. I think Hutchins might be a little more libertarian overall, but I don't feel like the fact that he used to be running for an output agency in the I think GOP nominate someone more 1950. I agree with that. Yeah, not as much votes. A lot more people abstain because, a lot more people are on the suburb are more progressive, so they don't really like the GOP. They probably think they're all Nazis. They probably think most of the Democrats are Nazis, to be honest. They probably think Barack Obama's a Nazi. That's kind of Reddit for you. They think they say Nazi so much, you just kind of don't even care anymore at this point. And we move on to the Libertarian Party. Chase Oliver announced today, but I put up the poll before he announced. Same with RFK Jr. He announced today. I put up the poll before he announced, or at least I heard it. And I voted for Termat. He came to one of my Libertarian County meetings, and I think that was nice. And let's put myself in the poll because I could. Joe Exact's winning with 2. Mike Termat's 1, and everyone else is abstaining, I bet if Chase Oliver won the poll, he'd probably do well. But we'll see that in the next one. MAGA Nazi just realized that being a Nazi ruined his career option. I could never do anything else. I decided to say the N word, and I decided to say I love it. I'm here. But motherfucking ink. Oof. That's the thing that really hurts me at the left. The left always say, "Oh, we're so forgiving," but we're so accepting, we're so forgiving. But you say the wrong thing once, you'd never recover from it. The left will cancel you forever. I remember one person on Twitter saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I used to be Nazi," and they're like, "No, you can, once you're Nazi, always Nazi. We'll never forgive you." And that's just kind of really where the left mindset is right now. They always go on about how accepting they are, but they're some of the least accepting people I would know. I would say. And the next thing is American fashion is becoming more delusional and dangerous. I track down 20. Yeah, everything's fascism these days. I'm just gonna skim this. Yeah, it's kind of just a Reddit post from anti-fascists of Reddit. Nothing too interesting. Then anti-vaccine activist RFK Jr. challenging Biden in 2024 from API posted that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna get too far. I think Joe Biden's gonna get the nomination even if he's not with us. They'll probably just weaken that Bernie's him, and they'll probably get the nomination. And yeah, it's hard as hell to beat an incumbent, so we'll see how that goes. What a grown man not opening his own door. By Donald Key. Yeah, Fox News is kind of crazy, I would say. They're kind of just like MSNBC or CNN. They're all just kind of circle jerks. Everything's a circle jerk these days. Yeah, I would say that's just kind of life, Yeah, life's just kind of a circle jerk these days. Everyone wants to be affirmed all the time that their opinions are the right ones, and that's just kind of life. Humans they love being told, "Oh, you're right." Nothing will ever humans will thrive when they're just say, "Oh," when they're just when they just people express that they have the correct opinions. But that's why we see a lot of political toxicity today, because people people really don't have they just want to get affirmed. That's why everyone's in an echo chamber and no one's really getting anywhere, and everyone's becoming more and more divided. A new bill criminalized protests and offensive remarks in parts of Canada. Yeah, that's not good. That's probably going to get worse. Soon we'll probably won't have any free speech anymore. That's life, though. Free speech ultimately is just something that can be taken away. Ultimately, and I'm glad the founding fathers really put the First Amendment in the Constitution because I'm glad I could at least have known free speech at one point in my life because I don't think that's going to be here to stay for long. That really just kind of makes me sad. Here's a self-proclaimed disinformation expert affiliated with the program after learning that we will never subscribe to when you find U.S. government ties. No, somebody. Yeah, by Glenn Ringwald. That's my post. Yeah, NPR is just kind of just whatever government run circles or. Yeah, I'm glad Twitter put them down as state-run media. It's like RT It's really not that much different. Yeah, but Jeffrey Epstein, Thailand's rapist, and real president. That's from Dave Smith. Yeah, he was complaining about Bill Clinton, just saying, "Oh, we have a moral crisis and what's happening in Ukraine." Yeah, Bill Clinton doesn't care. None of the Liberal presidents really care. It's all just a grift to them. This is just theater to them. They don't care. The fact that people who have an inherent social privilege unless you consider being true or privilege by Spike Cohen. Yeah, I agree with that. Math has just kind of math just kind of everything's just kind of like, oh, we always have to look at all the everyone's just I used to look at equity all the time, and it's just kind of getting annoying. It's like we look at like at the Smithsonian graphic from a few years ago about aspects of white culture in the United States. Oh, it's a scientific method. Oh, it's rational linear thinking. It's all just circles jerk. All this identity politics stuff. It's just getting annoying. That's one of the things I really didn't like about my education. I would say, I grew up in the 2000s and 2010s, and I would say my education was mostly trying to inspire me to be an activist above all else, and that's why I think you see a lot of people wanting to be activists these days, because the media promotes activism, but and that's why activism is kind of like almost it's almost become, I would say, almost like a religious ritual. Almost, we have to fight for. It's like secular humanism has become the religious ritual, and secular humanism is the religion, and activism has become the religious ritual. And I think that's important to remember. And yeah, activism, I would say, is good, but you should try and be an activist for what you feel like doing, for what you feel like being activist for. But there's more to life than just activism. I think social media really needs to realize that we live in a world where life essentially it has to be activism, and it just gets tiring after so long. Louisiana sues Biden for censoring America's free speech. That's good. It's always nice to see the people come back at the president. I always like how people can come back at the president. I think regardless of who the president is, I always like when people clamp back at them. I would say the same thing if I was the president. You don't want to rule and oppose. That's why I think and I think the presidency has just become so. It's powerful and just almost like a civic religion. Like the president is almost like the Pope of the American civic religion almost. And I think that's just kind of why I think we need to just kind of get rid of it almost. Like, because, it's just almost kind of mythologized. And I think that's important to remember. And I think, we'll see. We'll see what happens though. We'll see what happens if we ever get rid of the presidency and if we ever do change our government. I think that's something we do have to think about in the long run. The Constitution wasn't supposed to last forever. The founders didn't really intend it to last forever. They wanted us to have a constitutional convention every couple of decades. We haven't really had one since the last the framing in the 1780s. So we'll see what happens. President Chase Oliver announced his run for president. A lot of left libertarians on the suburb might be happy with that. Finally, this is Marvin Robinson, Democratic representative candidate, who was the deciding vote. Who should ban transgender sports? Yeah, that's the thing. The Dems they won't take any discretion. They'll probably go over the Republicans. It's just that's life for you. It's either support everything the official narrative of the parties, or you're excommunicated. It's real life these days. People will bully their ideology onto you, and sometimes you just have to hold your ground. Yeah, but that should be it. I'll put new and see if there's anything. We'll see if we can get to 30 minutes here. See, anything happened? No, nothing happened. I think I'll wrap that up for the night. And thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. And we'll see if I can do this again sometime. Have a wonderful day.